In March 2005, my wife and I found ourselves on a chartered bus leaving downtown Atlanta, Georgia, for a 2-day civil rights tour of Alabama, marking the 40th anniversary of Bloody Sunday in Selma and the Voting Rights March from Selma to Montgomery. The tour was put together by Evelyn Lowry, the wife of James Lowry of SCLC, Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and she herself, I think, was a longtime head of the women's division of SCLC. There were 6 buses in our caravan, and I think the last 2 of them or so were full of Boy Scouts and teenagers. But somehow we were assigned to bus number 1, the bus on which Evelyn Lowry herself was riding, and as we rolled out of Atlanta on our way to Alabama, she announced that she wanted each one of us to come forward to the microphone and tell who we were and why we were there. Very quickly, it was clear why some of the people were there on bus number 1. They were the children and grandchildren of 3 people who had died 40 years ago in that civil rights movement in Alabama. They were the children of parents who were, as they say, martyred for the cause. They were riding back to visit the spots where their parents had died back when they were very young children 40 years ago. It was an important trip for them. When it came my turn to go forward, I really didn't know what to say, and I think that's more or less what I said. I said I'd experienced the civil rights movement as a child in Alabama. Not as the child of a martyr of the cause, but as a child of people who were caught up in a world that was changing on them, and they did not like that. I said it was an honor to be there, and I was there to learn. At least I think I said something like that. Whatever I said, as we continued on that journey, I thought a lot about that question. Why was I there? I thought a lot about my parents and their view of the world back then, and I thought an awful lot about someone else. Her name was Cookie. Cookie was a black woman who went to work for my daddy even before he married my mother. So when my mama married my daddy, part of what she got in the bargain was Cookie. And if you had to ask, they would have said Cookie's job was to help my mother clean and cook. I remember looking into Cookie's face as a child. I remember her smile. She didn't just smile with her mouth. She smiled with her whole face, and when she smiled, it was as if light poured out of that face. I remember her laugh. It was a great cackling laugh. It was loud and happy, and she would laugh at any foolishness I could think up. I remember when I was very young, after my nap, Cookie would announce that she was going to take me for a walk. I remember my mother saying, "Where are you going?" And Cookie would say, "Well, we're going to try to go to Germany." Every time she'd say that. And every time we never made it to Germany. We usually made it to a playground that was surrounded by a hedge of tall nandina bushes with orange berries. I remember a big, tall metal slide that ended in this depression in the ground made by the feet of people coming off that slide for many years, and after it rained, of course, that became a muddy puddle, and you had to get up enough momentum going down the slide to jump over the puddle. I remember a swing set, I think it had leather seats, and I remember a metal merry-go-round, and people had run around that merry-go-round pushing it so many times that there was another depression in the ground all the way around that merry-go-round, and when it rained, that would become like a moat. We didn't have anything like that at home. so Cookie would walk with me to the playground. But we did have at home a vacuum cleaner. And I remember Cookie pushing our big old Hoover vacuum cleaner around the house with me sitting on it, backwards, with my legs wrapped around the base of the handle. She'd push me around in circles and under tables with that vacuum cleaner roaring under my seat. I remember how Cookie never ate at the table with us, always ate alone in the kitchen, never used our plates or glasses, ate off a tin pie plate and drank out of a jelly glass. And I remember asking my mother why, and my mother's answer was, "Oh, Cookie wouldn't be comfortable eating off our things." Thinking back on it, I'm sure in my child's mind I understood that as being about making sure that our dear friend Cookie was comfortable. And also in my child's mind, I'm sure I never doubted that my parents loved me. But I also understood that they expected me to be good. I also never doubted that Cookie loved me. But her face and her laughing at my foolishness, I think I believed Cookie loved me no matter what I did. Also, she cheated at Go Fish. She cheated so that I would always win. I remember as Christmas approached one year asking my mother if Cookie was coming for Christmas morning. I was thinking, she's part of this family. It wouldn't be Christmas without her. My mother said, of course she's coming. We can't have Christmas without Cookie. And you can see her there in our home movies, watching us open our gifts and opening our gifts to her and serving us our big Christmas dinner. One day, my mother left to drive Cookie home in the afternoon. She didn't come back for a long time, and when she did come back, she looked very distressed, and she smelled of smoke. She said the fire truck passed us on the way to Cookie's house, and the closer we got, the more we realized it was Cookie's house on fire. It burned to the ground, my mother said. She lost everything. It was terrible. I don't know any of the details of what happened about that. I was just a little boy at the time. But I do know that in almost no time, Cookie was in a new house and had furniture and clothes. And I wonder to this day exactly how that happened. At the time, I guess I just thought, it's the natural thing. It's what should have happened. Between the second and third grade of my life, we moved out to a farm about a mile south of town. Cookie, of course, came with us. As I got older, my homework got harder. And I remember afternoons spent in the big old kitchen of that farmhouse, studying with Cookie while she ironed. When I had to learn the capitals of the world, I learned them by teaching them to Cookie. To this day, I remember her announcing that her favorite capital was Edinburgh, Scotland. I asked her why, and she said, because my husband's name was Eddie. It was a surprise to me. I'd never heard of him. She told me he died before I was born. Then she said she had a little boy, too, named Walter. She called him Sonny. She said he was in the army now. I didn't think of it at the time. I was busy learning the capitals of the world. But eventually I thought about it. I thought about Cookie having a little boy. I thought about wondering, at least, where he was all those Christmases that Cookie was at our house. During those years, when I was in junior high, our world began to change. My parents blamed it on outsiders, people who lived somewhere else and didn't understand that we liked our world the way it was, all of us. I remember the day my father announced that we were canceling all of our magazine subscriptions. They were all published by outsiders who didn't understand, is what he said. The Saturday Evening Post, even the Progressive Farmer, canceled. I guess it was his way of trying to stop the world from changing. If you had asked, my parents would have said they paid Cookie to come into our home to help clean and cook. But sitting on the bus driving toward Birmingham, Alabama, toward our first stop at the 16th Street Baptist Church in March of 2005, I knew better. They brought Cookie into our family to help prepare me to accept changes that they were having a hard time accepting. One time my sister Alice said to me, "You know, Cookie is not her real name. Her real name is Lydia Ann Lucas." And I said, "No, it's not. It's Cookie." And my sister Alice said, "No, it's Lydia Ann Lucas." Well, I never knew when to believe Alice. So I asked Cookie. I said, "Cookie, Alice says your real name is not Cookie, that it's Lydia Ann Lucas." And Cookie looked at me with a big smile on her face and light coming out of her eyes. And she said, "My real name is Cookie Lucas Woman." I thought about why I was on that bus, and I realized whatever other reasons there were, one of the reasons was to remember and honor a woman whose unconditional love changed my life. Cookie Lucas Woman.